And now, direct from Las Vegas.
Welcome to Football Forecast Weekly. Each week, your host, Trip Mitchell, will introduce you to the top handicapper in Vegas, Dennis Tobler, and one of the top sportscasters in the U.S., Fred Wallen.
Welcome to Football Forecast Weekly. Hi, everyone. I'm Trip Mitchell, and the two debonair people that you're looking at right now, Fred Wallen from L.A., one of the great sportscasters of all time, and arguably one of the top handicappers, been beating the books for 40 years in Vegas, Dennis Tobler. Gentlemen, welcome to season number. Dennis, I think you're going to bring us up on that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Trip. It's great to be back on Football Forecast Weekly. Since the COVID hit last year, we were unable to produce one. This will be the first year of the fourth decade. That's right. We started this show in 1987. I used to get on the airplane at 7 a.m, fly to Long Beach, take a limo to Anaheim, do the show, reverse it, fly back home here to Vegas on Tuesday night, tape the show, send them out the next day. It was a 4-day process. Now we get to do it 40 years later via the telephone, and we can really pass along the information. During the past 40 years, we have beaten most of the private books in this country, some of the offshore books, and we brought an end to Cantor Gaming here in Las Vegas. So the information you hear on this show will be the top of the line from the real wise guys in the business. There's no squares here, so listen up and you can win, and win big this year. Thank you.
So, Fred, you and I have been working together for over 100 years, but I added up all of our experience being TV sportscasters, doing sports radio, betting in Dennis's case, and we've got 100 years in. You know, I've only gotten 3 in. You guys have got the majority, but this is a experienced crew, Fred.
Well, yeah, this is going to be fun. I don't think there's any question about it. We can talk about the college side of it and conferences adding more and more schools, which some of you might like. I don't necessarily like it. We can certainly discuss it. And we can discuss COVID and 50,000 and 80,000 fans, a positive or a negative as far as forcing fans to wear a mask. We got to talk about that, I think. There's so much to talk about. And of course, the National Football League first weekend begins this week.
So let's talk about the SEC. When is too much not enough? I mean, it's insane to extend invitations to Oklahoma and Texas. First of all, it just seems insane because now, let's say the college football playoff stays at 4 games. You're going to have a couple teams. You could have 3 teams coming out of the SEC, 1 out of the ACC if Clemson stays strong. I mean, it's insane. What are your thoughts on the SEC expanding like they are?
Hey, Trick, I agree. Can you explain it a little bit to the audience first, like what teams may go where and what, and then we'll pick up on it because I can't remember them off the top of my head.
Okay, so essentially what happened is the SEC is they're going to swipe from the Big 12. They're going to swipe Oklahoma and Texas, which are really the big money makers from the Big 12. So the Big 12 is reaching out to 3 schools for sure: Cincinnati, BYU, and Houston, and potentially a 4th. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on. But now the SEC is going to arguably have 7 of the top 8 programs in the country in the SEC. Dennis, I don't get it, and Fred, I don't get it. Why not have some other conferences have some power?
It's all about the money. I think it's all about the money, and they got their TV products lined up down the road, and the conferences are just getting bigger and wealthier. I'm not sure it's a good deal. You just explained the worst part of it. There may be 3 teams from the same conference in the Final Four playoff. Fred?
You've got the Big Ten and the Pac-12 now, and they are going to be fighting for viability. The ACC, as long as, until Florida State comes back, all you've got is Clemson there. You've got maybe one. It just doesn't make sense. Fred, you've been doing it for a long time. What are your thoughts on this amalgamation?
Well, living here in Southern California, BYU is always a great interconference type game. They won't be able to do that again if they go in a major conference, because most of their games, 10 out of 12, 11 out of 12, 9, it's going to be tougher to have interconference games just based on that. Cincinnati's battled UCLA. Houston's battled UCLA over the past decade or so, and USC's involved in this. I don't like it at all. But again, it just greed, GREED, and it exists in all of sports, in all of life. But in sports, and that's what we're talking about, football, college, and the pros, it's almost beyond compare how greedy people are. While we're talking about this, I want to say this, folks, COVID's for real. It's not a hoax. On Facebook, we got people who don't believe in it. The bottom line here is that the Pac-12 started this. They said last year it was a no contest if one of the schools couldn't play. This year it's a forfeit. Trip, please tell me, any school going to admit that with the money involved, that they've got players with COVID, what they're going to do is not play them and say it's a broken leg or something like that, or something that another excuse. Because agreed again, they're not going to blow the thousands of dollars. The Pac-12 was the first. Every conference since has gone along with that. It shouldn't be a forfeit. It should be a no contest, because people are going to lie and kids are going to get sick and people in the stands are going to get sick. I don't know a way around it right about now. You guys talk about it, please.
Well, here's the situation, Fred, and we don't want to get overly political, but the SEC it's like 5 Sturgis motorcycle events every weekend in the SEC, because you've got the tailgating beforehand, you've got a packed stadium. Thank God they don't have all indoor stadiums. Fortunately they're outdoors, but we're in a mess of trouble here. And the Raiders, I hate to say it, but Mark Davis was the most forethought of any NFL owner. He's going to say, you've got to be vaccinated to go to games, because we've got an indoor stadium and Allegiant Stadium, and we don't want to have a super spreader event. So anytime Mark Davis is has the most forethought and is the most enlightened owner, then you've got a problem.
Yeah. That just proves it's all about money, is what it proves. And I agree with Fred wholeheartedly. Last year, it was impossible even to bet the games because of COVID. And now with the running rampant, I seen Alabama Stadium last week. They were packed in there. And Alabama has the least vaccination rates in the country. We don't have to get political. We can just talk common sense like we do when we bet. This thing is not going to work out this way. There's going to be a lot of people getting sick. They're going to trade players off and on. This week, Georgia has players out. Nobody knows what players they are. So if they get into a cycle like that, they may ruin college football. Now, I hate to be a downer to start this year, but we have to watch out for COVID. And COVID is very important to the point spread and very important to the bettors. And I am sure that the wise guys this year and the huge syndicates that bet will be well informed on the COVID protocols of each team. And therefore, you're going to see some wild and crazy lines, and you better get the information you need, or you're not going to be able to win during this era.
Well, you Fred or Dennis, that is such a good point, because the line moves are going to be really incredible if a great player gets. Now, I think in college programs, the coaches can really tell these kids, you are going to be vaccinated. In the NFL, some of the better players have chosen not to, in particular Buffalo, and then quarterback situation in Minnesota. And those guys are crazy because it can hurt their team so much. And the way to really penalize these teams is take away their TV revenue. If you forfeit a game in the NFL, you don't get that TV revenue, because TV revenue blows everything else out of the water. And so if 2 players are the last cut, and, put it this way, in New England, Coach Belichick wasn't honest when he said that COVID had something to do with a cut, especially in the quarterback case, but it does. If you're not vaccinated, you deserve to be out the door. And, if someone doesn't like it, I don't care. When it comes down to money, you could tell your players to be vaccinated. And that's the way we go. Hey, let's talk about some games this week in college football. We've got some good ones coming up. And ironically, right where I am in Salt Lake City, we've got the war between BYU and Utah. Utah going in, depending where you look at it, from 15 to 20th team in the country. They opened up with a win at Weber State, or a home at Weber State. They're going to play BYU. What do you think of that game, gentlemen?
Well, in my case, I think Utah is far overrated this year. Weber State gave them all they could take last week. Matter of fact, I had Weber State bet on the extra games. BYU, on the other hand, needs to replace their quarterback, and I think all of them are 5-year seniors every year anyway. So they should, they should be able to handle Utah this year. And if BYU wants to make a statement, they need to beat some of these teams like Utah, and they need to beat them handily. I mean, I can't see BYU competing in some major conferences because I don't think they've ever been that good. Okay, they get to pick and choose their singular opponents every year. They don't have to play the tough ones, and they get by pretty easy, in my opinion. You throw them in a conference and you throw Notre Dame in a conference, those two teams may not win as many games every year as they do this way. So in my point of view here, I'm going to take BYU and lay the points.
Okay. What about Washington traveling to Michigan? Washington with just a rough game last week, and Michigan, Harbaugh was supposed to be the genius. He hasn't proved to be that genius.
Well, let's let Fred weigh in on that Pac-12 game, and then I'll have an opinion on it. Go ahead, Fred.
I thought the number was going to open at 8.5 or 9, something. I think it opened at 5 or 5.5. That number is going to go up. Last time I checked, it was like 6.5 or 7. That number is going to go up. You lose to Montana, throw 3 interceptions. You got a major problem. I don't think there's any question about that. Your point, Trip, about Dennis, about Harbaugh's not come through. He's never beaten Ohio State. But in this case, I think Michigan will win. They are at home. This could be an aberration type year. It's going to be tough to say, but I'll tell you this, Jimmy Lake, they ended the season well last year, the Washington Huskies did. And in this circumstance, though, I think Michigan will win at home and beyond the 6.5 or 7. Again, I thought he was going to open at 8.5 and go up. So, obviously at this point, you jump on the Wolverines.
Yeah, the state of Washington had a rough week last week with Washington State losing to Utah State at the end of the game. So the state of Washington needs a redo on this one.
Yes, they're in deep trouble in this game against Michigan, too, because they are a weak team, Washington, and Michigan has most of their power players back. Harbaugh has finally got to his 4th year, I believe, isn't it? His 4th year? Maybe it's his 5th. Anyway, he's got a team that he put together, and their credo this year is never stop, never lay off. So last week's game, when they ran the score up to 40 points, it's because they didn't stop. They had their offensive line first team in the 4th quarter in that game, and that's the way they're going to play the games. And I think they're going to want to slap Washington real good because this is the conference angle that comes into play in the ratings.
Let's talk about another game between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, and that's Oregon at Ohio State.
I'm going over. I'm going over. I'm Cristobal's going to score points since he's taken over with the Ducks. They've scored a lot of points, and nobody's going to stop Ohio State. I just think it's going to go over 70, 75 points in this one. As far as who's going to win and take the spread, I'm going to stay away from that. But I think it's 11 last time I checked. I'm going to go over the 62 points in this encounter.
So you like that over real strong at 62.
We're sitting in this Ohio State game. Is Ohio State's minus 14.5 points in this home game. And the total on the game opened at 63.5. And I agree with Fred. I thought the total would be up around 72. So I think it'll go flying over. And instead of just watching Fred, go ahead and put some money on that one. I don't know about the point spread either. 14.5 looks like a pretty high number if Oregon can score. So in this one, I think the over is definitely the play.
Okay, and we'll get to one final one, and that's Iowa at Iowa State. That's a war there. What are your thoughts on that game? Dennis, why don't you go ahead first?
Well, my thoughts on that game is Iowa State's one of the top 5 teams in the country. They return everybody, and I do mean everybody, from last year's great team that nobody got to see. So Iowa State's going to come out firing here. Now, Iowa's pretty tough, and this in-state rivalry should be defensive, but Iowa State has so many offensive weapons. It's just hard to figure this game this early in the year. I'm going to go with Iowa State. The reason I'm going with Iowa State is because I think they will end up in the top 5. I bet the over on their win total, and I think they will be one of the better teams in the country this year, and give Oklahoma a run for their money in the Big 12.
Okay, Fred?
I think the Cyclones will win. You're giving 4.5? I think last time I checked the number. Maybe 5 now. I think Iowa State will win this one. Iowa started very well, a little bit better than I thought they would this season. But in the end, I think Iowa State's the better club. As Dennis indicated, they could end up 5 or 6 in the country at the end of the season. So I'm going with Iowa State and to win by maybe 2 touchdowns.
Okay. We've got some definite opinions coming in with both our gentlemen really loving the over in the Ohio State game. I think that's our number 1 pick from the college segment this week. And both gentlemen like Iowa State quite a bit. When we come back after the short break, we've got NFL week number 1. We're back. We'll be right back.
Now Place Your Bets, the world's #1 sports betting film, is now available on DVD. Produced by Dennis Tobler, this Indie Film Fest winner has reached the top of the documentary list. Order your DVD today at www.nowplaceyourbets.com or stream from Vimeo today anytime. Now Place Your Bets. Watch it today.
And welcome back to Football Forecast. Dennis Tobler, Fred Wallen, Trip Mitchell, 3 guys who over 100 years doing this, and that kind of experience. Dennis, as far as I know, you've never had your legs broken, correct?
No, but I have broken a few legs.
Okay, well, we don't want to get into that. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on and if truth be told, if we could really tell the stories about all the years as a bookmaker and everything you've done, there's only one person who could direct that movie, and that's Martin Scorsese. So we'll tell the story someday. Okay, let's start. We have got a game that's coming up right away. Cowboys Buccaneers, 2 NFC teams. Obviously, the Buccaneers coming off their Super Bowl win against Kansas City. What are your thoughts on that game, Dennis? And then we'll get to Fred.
Well, I think the Buccaneers, they too return everybody, including Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback in the world and ever has been. So the Bucs are coming in high and mighty. He didn't play much during the preseason. I think they're fresh. I don't think they have to do anything to step it up. We might see back-to-back NFL championships this year. I'm not betting that way, but we just might because Tampa Bay is that good. So in this particular matchup, I think the Jameis Winston taking over in New Orleans and some of these other new quarterbacks probably won't pan out as well as they plan on them planning out. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. Till they lose, they're the champs.
Okay, who do you like in this game?
I like Tampa Bay. I mean,
Okay.
They're gonna the number opened at 5 offshore in the very close open, and it's up to 8 now. So I mean, it's pretty much written in stone that Tampa Bay is going to come in firing.
Okay, and Fred, what are your thoughts on that first matchup?
I disagree with Dennis. I have a hunch that Prescott will be not 100%, but he'll be doing his thing. Dak will do his thing, and I have a hunch that the Cowboys will play this right down to the wire. And as Dennis indicated, it jumped 3 points. The point spread has. Usually, when that happens, historically, at least in my lifetime, you go the other way. So I'm going the other way. I'm taking the 8 and hope to get 8.5 or 9 before Thursday night's affair. And I think Dallas will play it right down to the wire. And of course, the NFL would love a very close game. Not that I think anything is not above board, but I just think that Dallas will play this to the 60 minutes to the end.
Okay, and let's go a matchup of one of the worst programs in the NFL and a team that has hired a new coach, Urban Meyer, and we'll see how it goes. But the Jaguars against the Texans. Any thoughts, Fred?
I think the Texans are the 32nd best team in the National Football League. So I'm going with
Fred, where would they be in the SEC? That's the question.
In the middle.
Okay. And Dennis, your thoughts? The Jaguars against the Texans.
Well, the Jaguars get the number one draft choice quarterback in Lawrence, and they got Urban Meyer in there to coach him. So Jacksonville is bound to be on the improve all year. I'm going to look to take advantage of the point spreads as we go along, because I do think that team will get better. And I fully agree with Fred that Houston's the 32nd team in the league, and they're not going to play their regular quarterback. They're going to play, can't remember his name. That's how important he is. And I really think that they're going to get blown away.
Okay. Next up, the Chargers. And this interesting quarterback situation there against Washington. Steve Smith's retired. What do you think about this, Dennis?
Well, I'm not as sold on Air Bear as everybody else is. I think that the defensive coordinators during the offseason have plenty of time to look over these new quarterbacks that come out and do really well their first season or two. And I don't think he's going to be the savior that they think he can be. So at this point, I'm gonna stick with wherever I am.
Okay. And Fred, any thoughts?
My thoughts would be that the Chargers defense, I think, better than people think. So I'm going to go with the Chargers. And I do think Herbert is an astounding young quarterback. I think he'll prove it, barring injury, for the next decade or more. So
yeah, one of the unique situations, if I'm not mistaken, he found out that he was going to start a game after a pain shot was administered to the Chargers starting quarterback, and the needle went in too far and caused some damage. What a way to lose a starting job. I mean, that is horrible.
That's Tyrod Taylor, and that's hard to believe that something like that could happen. But, it's the world in 2021. I think the Chargers probably will win this one. Interesting. Fitzpatrick, might come in and throw some, he's more talented than people think. So he's liable to throw a couple of touchdown passes even against the Chargers. It might be a fun game to watch.
If it's an intellectual game,
good quarterback to have. Might have to rethink my opinion on that after hearing from Fred. He's sitting right down there in LA, gets all the information on the Chargers. Yeah, we'll have to see about Air Bear or however you pronounce his name. I'm always one that hedges against these new quarterbacks a year or 2 years in, and it's worked really well. From Cam Newton to, I can name 100 of them that haven't made it. Ryan Leaf, they might come in and they might be a thrill a minute to start with, but once they get the defense working on them, it changes in a quick hurry. I'm not saying that the Chargers won't cover here, though, because I have no opinion on this game.
Okay, 49ers versus the Lions. Lions obviously losing Matthew Stafford to the Rams during the offseason. What do you think about this Niners-Lions game?
Well, I think the Niners are in really good shape. They have two really good quarterbacks. I tend to disagree with people who think the Chargers have those two good quarterbacks. The Lions, they're losers. They might be the 31st worst team in the league. And I think they're going to get ran all over. And I think they'll probably lose most all their games this year. Maybe they'll win two because they play in such a weak division. But they couldn't play with a good quarterback, and now they don't even have a quarterback.
Okay, Fred?
Well, I disagree with the last comment. I think Jared Goff is he's not horrible. He's not bad. The Rams gave up too much for Matt Stafford in the Goff deal. They gave up 2 number ones and I think a number 2 and maybe a 3. They gave up way too much. I agree. Jared Goff is not Bobby Lane. In 1957, in 1957 was actually the last time the Lions won the championship. They're not going to win the championship. And I think they're better with Goff than people might realize. I don't think he's any worse than Stafford. I think the Rams made the mistake, and I'm going to live with that. So I have no real strong opinion on the game, the 49. Because, when you got 2 quarterbacks battling, we both learned this, maybe you have no quarterbacks. And Lance from North Dakota State is awfully good. And Garoppolo has proven to be good at times. So I don't know if that's a positive nor a negative. So I'm going to stay away from the game, but I'm going to repeat, Jared Goff is not the worst quarterback in the National Football League, and he could keep the Lions in some of these games.
So
yeah,
Fred,
I
real quick,
better amend my statement a little bit there for first trip. I agree Goff isn't, but I agree with him wholeheartedly on this trade. I don't see where Matthew Stafford is any better than Goff. So that's where my point came in.
okay. And looking at if Detroit was in the Big Ten, would they be a top tier team, or let's rephrase this? How would they be in the MAC? Would they be better than Toledo in college football?
Yeah.
I don't know if they beat Montana, but maybe they would.
Matt Patricia proved to be one of the worst coaching hires. You know, they always Belichick's tree and Don Shula's tree 100 years ago. Every great coach has a coaching tree underneath it, and they hire these guys, and Patricia might be the worst hire ever.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't see them getting any better.
Yeah. So let's go to the Jets and the Panthers. Any thoughts, gentlemen? Dennis, let's start with you.
Well, the Jets are looking to improve this year, and I hope they do. Carolina, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the situation down there either. It's too early in the year. Let me take a look at the line here.
Because we're going to be starting a rookie quarterback, and that should affect things with the Jets. And obviously, the coach down in Carolina is really well respected by virtually everyone in the NFL. So those are my two thoughts in that game.
Go ahead, Fred.
No, I think Ron Rivera, as Chip just indicated, he was a Cal linebacker. I remember, I was very, very, very young when he was playing for Cal. But no, I think he's one of the top coaches in the National Football League. I do not have a strong opinion, Jets versus Carolina, but I will agree with Chip that Rivera is one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, and let's move on then to the Browns and the Chiefs.
I'm going to add something about that Jets game. The line opened at Carolina 4, moved to 5. I'm not sure about that, but people need to watch the total. Evidently, they're going to score because the total moved up from 42 to 45 in a quick hurry. So that's something that people can keep their eyes on.
Okay, and let's move to the Browns and the Chiefs. Fred?
Well, in the power ratings, in some of them, they've got Tampa, and the other ones, they've got Kansas City on top. I think Mahomes, one of the brighter quarterbacks in this league, he's got a nice memory, a very good memory. And we remember how he ended in the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't wager against Kansas City first time out, even though I'm going to say something else. When the three of us started following football, there were 6 exhibition games and then 12 regular season games. Then they went to 14 regular season games, and they cut down to 4 exhibition games. Well, this year they're really when we had 6 and even 4, some of the starters played. This time with 3, very few played. It's awfully tough to tell the first couple games of the season. It's very difficult indeed. But I'm going to repeat, Mahomes has this way of revenge, and he's super talented. And the Browns can score. There's no question. I think Kansas City will score more.
Yeah, I agree with you on Mahomes, and I think you made a very good point that everybody needs to really take into consideration this weekend is they didn't play anybody, like the Raiders didn't play Derek Carr the entire preseason. Many of these teams, Tom Brady didn't play. Many teams didn't play their quarterback or their starting offensive and defensive lines very much. So this first week is going to be like the last exhibition game, I believe. They're going to try to work in their starters and see who they're going to use and who they're not going to use. And it presents a lot of value for everybody. Now, which game were we talking about here?
So we're talking the Browns and the Chiefs. And I just want to say, Dennis.
The Chiefs, yeah. The Chiefs opened at 6.5. That line stayed steady at 6.5. Of course, they're at home here, but the totals jumped from 51 to 54.5. So I expect they think both these quarterbacks are going to turn it loose and score. I'm not so sure about that because I tend to agree with Fred that this is more of a last preseason game than a first regular season game.
And one of the things that after the horrendous amount of sacks and hurries during the Super Bowl, what happened is Mahomes and his agent and management in Kansas City said, we are going to give you a much better offensive line. They have completely revamped that O-line in Kansas City, and we'll see if that gives Mahomes some time. And obviously, quarterback on the Cleveland side of the ball can get things done, so that should be interesting. Real quick, let's get to a couple games that don't particularly excite me. Broncos at the Giants and the Bears at the Rams. But let's talk about the Broncos at the Giants first.
Fred? Well, the Broncos opened up as a 1-point road favorite and moved to 2.5 quickly. They seem to solve their quarterback problems, and they're going to be pretty good this year. I'm not so sure that the Chargers are going to finish second in the West. We'll have to see.
Okay, Fred?
I don't have a strong opinion on this. Again, you got 2 quarterbacks in Denver. When you have 2, maybe you don't have 1. We'll see how it goes. Jones, of course, for the Giants, getting better every year. I don't have a strong opinion on the game.
Okay, now the Bears and the Rams. That's coming up. That'll be the night game on Sunday night. Fred?
Well, again, Matt Stafford is an average quarterback, maybe slightly better than average. Rams made a mistake in giving up a ton of things and draft picks in the trade. You can make the case that Goff is as good as him. If he's not, they're very, very close. I think maybe in the end, the Rams will find a way to win, but it's not going to be, again, I sort of believe in karma in a lot of ways. I don't know what you guys think out there. And folks, you can believe or disbelieve, but when they were thinking about trading Goff, McVay was in Mexico on a vacation with his fiance and with Stafford. And at that point, a lot of people didn't know what was going on. I don't think you treat your former quarterback like that. I understand you come in as a 30-year-old head coach, and now you're 35, and it goes to your head. And it's not your fault ever when you lose. It's the quarterback's fault. No, it wasn't the quarterback's fault. It was everybody's fault. And I'm going to say again, they're not much better with Stafford. And down the road, they're worse because they've given up draft picks. So I think the Rams might win. I wouldn't give a point. Maybe straight up, you take the Rams. But it should be an interesting Sunday night game for Al and Chris.
Okay.
That's great information. Great information
Dennis,
from Fred out there.
Yeah. So let's go to the Seahawks and the Colts.
Wait a minute. You didn't get my take on that game.
Oh, well, Dennis, I canceled the show. I'm going to go out and be summarily executed.
Well, I want to say something about that game because I do think it's one of the better plays of the week. And I agree with Fred. And I agree with Fred about the quarterback situation. And I'm not so sure about the Bears, but the line is 7.5 points. And that hook over the touchdown is just too much. So I think it's a solid play Sunday night to take the Bears and the points. And I'm not sure there'll be that much scoring either.
Okay, so the hook is really the key. So 7.5 the key for you to take the Bears.
Plus 7.5 is a good buy.
Okay, and Lee, our producer, keep track. I've made one mistake this year. The over and under on the amount of mistakes that I'm going to make is 3,012. So take the under right now, but it's a long season.
Well, 16 weeks, you won't reach that number.
17 weeks, so we're
17 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, how about let's get to a couple other games real quick. Seahawks Colts. Any thoughts there, Dennis? I'll start with you.
The Seahawks, I think, are in disarray. I think here again, Fred talked about karma, the mental state, everything. I think Seattle's in a blither over Russell Wilson. I'm not sure how well they're going to play this first game of the year. I really don't have a tight opinion on this, but maybe the home team's aside.
Okay, Fred?
Well, you just hear earlier that Wentz is now going to play, which is not necessarily a positive for the Colts. So just based on that, I'm going to lean towards Seattle. And also, they have improved based on what everybody says, that offensive line. Wilson was, how many times was he sacked last year? Hard to believe. They only averaged, I think in the last 9 games of the season, like 22 points a game. The first half of the season, they averaged like 30 something. I think somewhere in the middle of the season, they'll be averaging 30 something. This game, you don't know. Again, it's an exhibition game, basically. I think Seattle will win, but I give a lot of points no, and I don't think Wentz is a positive. So I'm going to go with one of my favorite quarterbacks, even in college, Russell Wilson, and see what happens.
Okay, let's go to the Eagles and the Falcons. Fred, why don't we stay with you on that one first? Then I will get to Dennis. How's that?
Okay, if the Texans are 32, the 32nd best team in the NFL, Atlanta is the 31st best team in the National Football League. So I'm going against them, against anybody except the Texans.
Okay, Dennis.
Well, what did you say, Fred? Atlanta is the 31st?
The 31st best team in the NFL.
They're 31st. So me and you are at odds. I had Detroit over the 31st spot. So anyway, yes, Atlanta sucks. And they're actually favored in this ball game by 3.5 points. And I have no idea why they're favored in this game. I think I will take Philadelphia on the money line and get plus 140 or plus 150.
Well, but this is really an example of how the mighty have fallen. You know, remember just a couple of years ago, Atlanta with that huge lead in the Super Bowl against New England, and wow, that thing turned around in a hurry. Now, this is a game I am very excited about. Steelers at the Bills. This 2 AFC heavyweights going against each other. And a lot of smart people are predicting that the Bills will get to the Super Bowl this year rather than Kansas City. So, Dennis, why don't we stay with you? What are your thoughts on the Steelers versus the Bills?
Well, I'm one of those that are very high on the Buffalo Bills. I think their quarterback is one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league, and he's just now going to show it this year. The Bills are going to be tough. Now, they probably can't beat Kansas City at this point in their history, but they're building to it. And Josh Allen is a different quarterback than Mahomes is. Josh Allen can run the ball, but he's so big, he's so hard to bring down that he can stand in there and pass too. So I like Buffalo. I'm going to take Buffalo in this matchup too. I think they're going to win a lot of games. I played Buffalo over on the win totals too. So I'm going to take Buffalo in this one. I'm a Josh Allen fan.
Fred?
I think this is Big Ben's last season. I think Pittsburgh will be fortunate to win 9 games on the season. If they go 9-8, I think it's a winning season. But I think that's a way for Tomlin to go out also. I like Buffalo, and I like Josh Allen, and I think people are correct in the analysis that Kansas City's #1 foe in the AFC will be the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to take Buffalo in this one. And a lot of my friends are Steeler fans. They're not going to be enjoying listening or watching this, but I'm sorry, folks. I think the Steelers' time is done, and I think Tomlin's time is done. And Big Ben has already indicated, I think this is it for him.
Okay, let's go to a Norris Division team, the Vikings going against the Bengals. Fred, let's stay with you on that.
Everybody hates the Bengals. I don't. So I got a hunch that Burrow will surprise coming back. So it's not like a lock for Minnesota, not a strong play necessarily. But I mean, if you read all the analysis going into this week, one of the strongest plays for everybody is Minnesota. Well, maybe, but again, I think Burrow is a top-notch quarterback when healthy. I think he's going to show it. Again, we're talking the last exhibition game in reality. I think the Bengals will play better than people think.
Okay, Dennis, what are your thoughts?
I agree. Minnesota they were a 3.5 point favorite. It's down to 3 now. And here again, the home team looks to have the value. And I agree about the quarterback too. I think he's better than anybody they've had there for a long time. I mean, Rivers didn't get a chance, obviously, in his situation, but I agree with Fred on this one. And I think you can watch them all season to improve also.
Okay, let's go to the Cardinals versus the Titans. Dennis, let's start with you.
Well, I have no opinion on that game. As a matter of fact, I really don't care who wins that game.
Okay.
I got a letter from DirecTV, an email from DirecTV that this year they're giving me the Sunday ticket for free. So that's the only reason I'll watch even a few minutes of this one. Outside of that, I really don't care. I don't have a strong opinion on Arizona and Tennessee. I mean, obviously Arizona's going to score some points, but I have no strong opinion one way or the other.
Okay, for those fans watching from the state of Arizona or Tennessee, the opinions of Fred and Dennis are their own. I have nothing to do with it. I love the state of Arizona. I love the state of Tennessee. Let's go to the Dolphins and the Patriots. So, Belichick starting a rookie quarterback. That seems a little scary to me. Fred, let's stay with you on that one.
I have a hunch that this is not going to be a great season for the New England Patriots like last year. Not as bad as last year, maybe slightly better. I'm going to take the points and go with the Dolphins. I'm not saying Tua is the world's greatest quarterback, but I think they'll keep it close. And I think time has caught up a little bit with Bill Belichick, who, again, I think he needs 14 victories to finish second, to be second in all-time coaches' victories. I think 17 will get him on top of everybody. He's not going to get it this year. He might get 9 or 10, but I'll take the points and I'll go with the Dolphins.
Dennis?
Yes, me too. I'm taking the points, taking the Dolphins. I think the Patriots are going to have the worst year they have had in a long time. So I really think that the Dolphins will be improved. I like their quarterback. I like their attitude better. And I think Belichick, I think time has run out on him and he can't play with nothing else. So,
Okay. Let's hit the Packers versus the Saints. Obviously, Drew Brees, a huge shoes to fill in New Orleans. Dennis, what are your thoughts on that game?
Well, I think they're going to be better with Jameis Winston. He's had his tough time, and he will be well coached. And they always had the best offensive lineman for Drew Brees every time he played. So hopefully they can do that for Winston, and he can move around and throw the ball down the field. He has a possibility of being better than Brees, but I think the coaching is the story here. I'm going to go with New Orleans this first matchup. I'm going to take them in surprise.
Wow. How many points? What are you getting?
Getting 4.5. Getting 4.5, but I'm going to take them on the money line.
Okay.
I'm going to because Green Bay has not played one game with Rodgers back, and there is some problems in the clubhouse of the Green Bay Packers, and they go on the road this first game, and Rodgers hasn't played yet, so you can look for the Green Bay to just be an average team in this one. Like we've been saying, this is the last preseason game for them, so I'm going to take them on the money line. I'm going to take a lot of these dogs on the money line this week because I think we're going to cash out. So in this particular situation, if you want to be safe, take the points. If not, play the money line. It's called gambling.
Okay, Fred, we learned something this week. It's called gambling. Go ahead, Fred.
I thought Aaron Rodgers did a great job hosting Jeopardy, but I knew he wasn't going to retire, so I knew he wasn't going to get the job. But all things being equal, I think he might have been the best host that they had trying out. To tell you the truth, again, we're talking exhibition game, final exhibition game. I love watching Aaron Rodgers. I really do. But as Dennis indicated, you're getting some points with the other side. I think I would take the points and go against the Packers in this one. Down the road, though, Rodgers is so competitive that down the road, I have a hunch that he's going for all the records. I don't care what anybody says. Whatever Brady gets, Rodgers wants. He's 7 years younger. But my point is he's not retiring, barring injury, until he's very close or has all the records. So in the middle of the season, you can go with Aaron Rodgers. Right now, I'm going to stay away from him.
Okay, and our final game, the Ravens against the Raiders. Dennis, we'll start with you since it's in your town.
Well, I'm going to beg off on this one because this is going to be my Monday night game of the year. The first week of the season is going to be my Monday night game of the year. If anybody wants my selections on this, you can go to footballforecast.com and sign up for my selections this year, because this Monday night game is going to be the first one in Las Vegas. I have all the information on it. I can probably quote you the final score and the statistics. I'll leave the fantasy football to Fred, but I'm going to pass on this one because it is my game of the year. I want everybody to check out my website, footballforecast.com. Each week, watch this show and join the program and be a winner. Sorry,
Sounds
Fred,
good.
no Monday night answer for this
Okay,
week.
Fred, why don't you give us an answer?
I think we'll have more vaccinated people in this one than any other game around the National Football League.
Well, you know, it's
Baltimore-
funny on the subject of vaccination. So Mark Davis said you have to be vaccinated. Season ticket holders have to be vaccinated to get in the stadium, and only 1,400 season ticket holders gave their tickets back. So that shows that people are voting with their heart and their brain on this one.
It's a no-brainer.
I was going to say that the loss of Dobbins obviously hurts Baltimore, but the Raiders do not have a good defense. So Fred's going to pass on the game and wait for Dennis to give me his free pick.
There you go.
Or
Free
at
for
least a
me.
discount. Hey, want to thank everyone for watching and listening. This has been a lot of fun. Dennis, it's as always working with you it makes the show go very quick.
Oh, thanks very much. I think we have a great team this year. And I want to just mention that Fred Wallen's show is on Sports Overnight America on Sirius XM, TuneIn, and all the apps. And I'm going to be his guest this Friday on Sports Overnight America. So we're going to cover this weekend with all kinds of football stuff. So Fred, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Sports Overnight America before we go?
Dennis will be a guest Friday night, 10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Heard on TuneIn, all the apps. Also heard on Saturday night at 11 or 12 Pacific Daylight Time. But Dennis and I will discuss his documentary that won all kinds of awards, and certainly we'll discuss some of the Sunday and the Sunday night game as far as the Rams are concerned. And should be fun. And folks, again, it's Sports Overnight America. Just go to Sports Byline USA, and you can listen to the show, and we'll have some fun with it.
Sounds
It'll be
good.
great.
Dennis, so once again, your big play is your Monday night play, and how do they get that from you?
They go to footballforecast.com and they can sign up for the season package or a weekly package or whatever they'd like. And I urge everybody to do this. The shows that we're producing are going to be on Revolver Podcast, going to be on all sorts of YouTube channels and footballforecast.com. So once we get rolling this year, this is just a start.
Okay. Want to thank the man who makes it all possible, H. Lee Spencer, who spins the dials and does all the good stuff. For Fred Wallen and Dennis Tobler, I'm Trip Mitchell saying we'll see you next week on Football Forecast Weekly. Goodbye, everyone, and have a profitable weekend.
Thank you for listening to Football Forecast Weekly, an affiliate of TSI Network.